where the feeling, "I'm not enough," really comes from. Let's start very honestly. If someone asked you right now, not logically but emotionally, do you feel like you are enough? Most people wouldn't be able to answer yes with real certainty. Not because they are broken, and not because something is truly wrong with them, but because somewhere inside there is a quiet, familiar feeling. I'm not enough, not smart enough, not confident enough, not successful enough, not strong enough, not normal enough. And the strangest part is that this feeling can exist even when life looks fine from the outside. You may have experience, achievements, relationships, and still feel like you're missing some invisible permission to simply be yourself. Today, I don't want to talk about how to fix this quickly or how to become better. I want to talk about something much more important, where this feeling actually comes from. Because until you understand its source, you keep fighting the wrong battle. Here's the first thing you need to hear clearly. The feeling "I'm not enough" is not a fact. It's not the truth about you. It's not objective reality. It's a learned inner state that develops over time. No one is born feeling insufficient. A child doesn't look at themselves and think something is wrong with them. They simply exist, and that is enough. This feeling appears later, and not because you failed at life, but because you adapted. One of the main sources of this feeling is comparison, but not the obvious kind. Not just comparing yourself to other people. It's the comparison between who you are and an imagined version of who you think you should be. This image is built from everything around you: parents' expectations, school systems, social media, culture, comments like, "At your age, you should already," or "Normal people are like this." Inside you forms a silent standard of what enough looks like. Calm, confident, successful, emotionally stable, without doubts, without fear, without weakness. And then you look at your real, living self and feel the gap. That gap doesn't feel like difference, it feels like a flaw. Another powerful source is conditional love, when acceptance and warmth were given not freely, but in exchange for behavior, success, or being convenient. You were praised when you performed well. You were criticized, ignored, or emotionally distanced when you failed. Slowly, a dangerous belief formed inside. To be accepted, I must be different. Over time, you stop waiting for others to judge you because you start doing it yourself. You become your own supervisor, critic, and controller. You constantly check yourself. Am I trying hard enough? Am I doing enough? Do I deserve rest? Even when things go well, the relief is temporary because the fear of failing again never disappears. Another source is suppressed emotions. Many of us learned early that certain feelings were not acceptable. Anger was bad. Fear was weakness. Sadness was inconvenient. Uncertainty was shameful. So we learned to disconnect from our real inner experience. We stopped trusting our signals and emotions. When you live disconnected from yourself for a long time, a sense of emptiness appears. You start playing roles instead of living. And that emptiness often feels like, "I'm not enough." Not because you lack value, but because you are separated from yourself. Here's something very important. The feeling "I'm not enough" does not motivate growth. It creates tension. It keeps you in a constant state of not yet allowed to relax, not yet allowed to be happy, not yet allowed to be yourself. Life turns into waiting for the moment when you finally become acceptable. And that moment never comes, because the standard keeps moving. There's a simple truth that changes everything. You don't feel insufficient because you are insufficient. You feel insufficient because you are trying to match an image that isn't alive. That image doesn't get tired. It doesn't feel fear. It doesn't doubt. But you are human, and a human will never fully match an ideal. Nothing is wrong with you. You don't need to be fixed. The feeling "I'm not enough" says nothing about your value. It only shows how long you've lived against yourself. Real change doesn't start with new habits or positive thinking. It starts with a shift in relationship. When you stop arguing with yourself, when you stop proving that you deserve to exist, when you allow the quiet thought, maybe I'm already enough to be here. Not perfect, not finished, not forever, but enough. Take a moment now. Breathe, and ask yourself a simple question, without trying to answer correctly. What if I was never the problem? Sometimes that question alone begins to soften something that has been tight for years. If this video resonates, you may want to listen to it again, calmly, without rushing. The feeling I'm not enough doesn't disappear through pressure. It dissolves through understanding. And as always, I'll remind you of what we repeat here, again and again. Anything is possible.